Okay, good morning, everyone. It is 9 a.m. Today is the meeting of the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority. I'm calling that meeting to order. Raymond, will you do roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Joyce Wilson.
Present.
Joe Wardy.
Present.
Les Parker. Mr. Parker. I see him on the list. Mr. Parker, are you on mute?
That's all right. If he goes back, we can add him.
All right. Joe Fernandez.
Present.
Jim Smith.
Present.
Michael Norwich.
Present.
Luis Rosas.
Present.
All right. So right now we are missing Mr. Parker.
Okay. Maybe he got disconnected. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and get started because we have a long agenda and it's going to be kind of a hard slog to get through it this way. And I appreciate everybody's flexibility. So I'm going to start with agenda item number 2, which is adoption of the minutes from our April 8th meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review those?
Yes.
Actually, if you don't mind, if I could read a few COVID-19 notices into the record related to.
Okay, fine. I'm sorry.
No problem. Just I'll be brief. Pursuant to the, incidentally, Ray Mateus, Executive Director of the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority, pursuant to the suspension of certain open meetings laws by Governor Greg Abbott, this CRRMA board meeting is being held by video and telephone conference. In accordance with the various federal, state, and local orders, the public may participate in the meeting using the video link or telephone conference information found on the CRRMA's website and on the posted agenda. This meeting is also being recorded and will be made available on the CRRMA's website as soon as possible after conclusion of the meeting. During the meeting, each board member making a motion or second should state who made each. The chair will then call for those in favor, those against, or those abstaining. The public, and incidentally for the board, that's a different procedure than we used last time. Last time we used a voice vote for each item. We're going to move to the those in favor, against, or abstaining in this meeting. The public is invited to participate in the meeting just as with all CRRMA meetings. If you're interested in asking a question or providing a comment, please submit a comment in the chat function of the video component or ask to be recognized by phone. Finally, are there any questions from the board before we move forward? And if not, we will begin our meeting with the chair reading item 2 into the record.
I believe Mr. Parker is joined by phone now. I see his phone number on here in addition to his computer.
Mr. Parker, are you here?
I am.
Okay.
All right. Welcome. Thank you.
Good morning. Okay, so then we'll go back to item 2 if everybody's ready. And that's the approval of the minutes from our April 8th meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review them? If there's no comments or questions or amendments, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve. This is last I move.
Second is Jim.
So we have a motion from Mr. Fernandez, a second from Mr. Smith. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Moving forward then to item number 3, I'm going to read 3A and B into the record together. Presentation, discussion, and action on the following procurement items. A, board resolution selecting a financial advisor pursuant to the CRRMA's request for proposals issued March 20th, 2020, and authorizing the executive director to negotiate an agreement with such selected firm. And B, board resolution establishing scoring criteria and authorizing the issuance of a procurement for annual audit services as required of the CRRMA.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Robert Studer, Director of Finance for the CRRMA. I've got a presentation for each of these items First, we'll take the financial advisor. I do see on the line many of the respondents, and so I want to say thank you all for submitting for our procurement. We appreciate it, and all the applications were really strong. Just going to walk through a few items related to the procurement. First, kind of the role of the financial advisor as a refresher. They're going to assist us with any bond issuances or loans that we may have, ongoing disclosures related to those and any other reporting requirements. And also they help us as we develop other projects and look at options for financing. This procurement, the board actually approved the scoring back in March, and then we issued the procurement later that month. In April, we had our evaluation committee meeting, and it was a really good meeting, and we appreciate our partners that helped us with that. And now we're going to be asking you to take action today. We received 4 submittals from Estrada Hinojosa and Company, Hilltop Securities, PFM Financial Advisors, and RBC Capital Markets. Our scoring criteria were broken down into 3 categories: the firm experience and qualifications, team member experience and qualifications, and then the cost of services being provided. Our evaluation committee, we actually were very lucky. We got 3 great participants: Robert Martinez, who's the Deputy City Manager of Support Services and Chief Financial Officer for the city, Art Duran, who's the CFO for the water utility, and Wally Hargrove, who's the Executive Director of Budget and Fiscal Policy for the County of El Paso. Those are the 3 highest financial folks at each of those 3 organizations and 3 of our biggest partners, and so we're really lucky to have them. Here are their scores for the different respondents. As you can see, they kind of varied on how they scored, and we've mixed up from the list that we gave you there, so it doesn't match 1 to 1, 2 to 2, 3 to 3. We did not get an official request from them or official recommendation to you all, but we are asking that you use these scores to inform your decision today to make a selection. So I'm going to leave these up here just for a minute longer, but here are the scores across the bottom. I hope everyone can see those. So the highest respondent per the scores was Hilltop Securities. And so today we're requesting board action to accept the evaluation committee scoring and select Hilltop Securities as the financial advisor. And then a second part of that motion is to authorize the executive director to begin negotiations with Hilltop Securities. And that would be for a contract initial term of 3 years with 2 one-year options for a total of up to 5 years.
This is Jim. I move to approve Hilltop
Joe
Security.
Wardy, second.
So we have a motion and a second. Colonel Smith moved, Mr. Wardy second. Are there any questions or further discussion? I do have a question. Just was the finance committee involved in this process at all?
Yes, they initially reviewed the scoring before we took it to the full board. But beyond that, no, we relied on the committee of our partners to do the evaluation.
Okay, that's fine, but the committee did review the scoring.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. And I assume that this advisor will work with the committee as part of our ongoing fiduciary responsibilities?
Yes, the committee will have some involvement. They'll primarily work with me to develop projects and do everything, but in the event that we choose on or have a big budget, I imagine.
Something's going on. I can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm hearing interference as well.
Okay, well,
Sounds like somebody muted themselves, which was causing the interference. As you asked, Ms. Wilson, the finance committee would have some interaction with the financial advisor, but primarily I would be the point of contact as we develop projects or handle those.
okay,
Joyce.
yes.
Okay, a couple things. First of all, I don't think the finance committee was involved in the scoring. We looked at the scoring criteria, but not the actual scoring. It's the first I've seen it.
Just the criteria as we developed it.
Okay.
Right, but not the actual scoring.
No, that was handled by our partner.
Hilltop was the one we were using before as well, right?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. So it's a continuation of this relationship. And to be clear, we worked on the scoring criteria, not on the actual scoring.
Correct.
Okay, that's fine. I was just curious as to whether or not before it came to the board, it had gone through finance committee for review, but that's fine. We have a motion and second. Are there any other questions or comments? All in favor? Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you. Would you, and then we're going on to item B.
Yes, ma'am. This is the procurement of audit services. And for this one, just to immediately pick up where you left off on the other one, we did not take this one to the finance committee, as the finance committee has not met since our last meeting several months ago. And so this is the first time anyone on the finance committee or the board is seeing our proposed scoring criteria. That's a function of we need to get this moving prior to our next scheduled finance committee meeting. So I apologize for that. This is, we had an agreement with Gibson Ruddock Patterson, who were selected in 2015. It was initial 3-year term, and we exercised both of the 1-year options. That has expired now, and so we need to go out prior to the end of this fiscal year. And we are seeking board approval of the scoring criteria. This is our proposed scoring criteria. It's 4 sections. The first is the firm experience and qualifications, and that's 30 points. The team member experience, so who we'd actually be working with, is another 30 points. The audit approach is 30 points, and then references are 10 points. The references are important. We want to make sure that they've worked with other governments and potentially other RMAs or unique organizations like us that we just don't fit into a neat box. So if they've done school districts or they've done a local government that's kind of by the book, then that's helpful for us to know, but we want to make sure that they're a little bit more flexible. And so we want to talk to the references, and the same kind of thought goes into that audit approach category, where we want to know that they're putting sufficient hours and people on our account instead of thinking it's going to be some quick, easy project. As I mentioned earlier, the finance committee has not seen this yet, as we would not had a meeting. We would use an evaluation committee like we did with the financial advisor. We would pull from our partner agencies like the city and the county, who we work with frequently, and then we would bring that final selection back to the board with the input from the evaluation committee. Timeline is later this month. We would actually issue the procurement. In July, we would meet with our partners on the evaluation committee to score them, and then in August, we'd bring it back to the board to make a selection. Our requested board action is that the board adopts the selection criteria and scoring presented and authorizes the executive director to issue a procurement for audit services. That's all I have, subject to your questions.
Can I request that once you go through the procurement and do your evaluation, that you run it through the finance committee before you bring it to the board? Even if you have to do a special meeting electronically like we're doing now,
Yes,
just
ma'am.
for them to review it so that there's been a set of eyes. And then I guess my other question is, and maybe this is something that's really not appropriate for the board, but is there any reason why the chair of the finance committee couldn't be on the evaluation team? Or is that not appropriate?
I'll chime in on that one, Robert. Historically, this board has shied away, and in fact, we had extensive conversations about that sort of thing. We shied away from it. In fact, actually, the board directed that no board members be involved in the actual procurements. Ultimately, obviously, all awards go through the board, but the evaluation committees were intended to be professional individuals that operate within that that industry. So what it's usually, for example, on the PE selections, we'll borrow folks from the City of El Paso's engineering department, from TxDOT's engineers, and that sort of thing. So it's usually experts from within the field, but it is not board members, to avoid any obvious issues.
Yeah, I am sensitive about that, and certainly on the contracts, I would not be supportive, but on the financial ones where we have a different kind of oversight, I was just a little more curious. Anyway, I would request, unless other board members object, that you just do a quick run through after you've done your evaluation so that there is a review by the finance committee before it comes to the board.
We can certainly do that, and I'll mention the way that we're running these meetings, we could run the scoring criteria through a special finance committee as well, if you think that that's necessary.
I'm okay with the criteria unless somebody else has objections. Are there any other comments?
Motion to approve. This is Joe Wardy. Second, Les Parker.
So we have a motion and second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 4, discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the board chair to submit a letter to the New Mexico Secretary of Transportation regarding partnering opportunities for regionally significant projects as recommended by the Planning Committee.
Okay, thank you. I'll provide a brief intro, and I'll ask Jim Smith, as the chair of the Planning Committee, to chime in. This item was taken before the Planning Committee last week, and just as read into the record, the Planning Committee made a recommendation that a resolution be provided to the full board requesting that the chair submit a letter asking or really extending an invitation to begin conversations with the New Mexico Department of Transportation on ways that we could partner with New Mexico DOT on the development of regionally significant transportation projects that impact both areas. And a prime example of this is often cited as the Northeast Parkway or the Borderland Expressway, which is a project that begins, depending on which way you're looking at it, right, begins in Texas and heads into New Mexico, or the reverse. So that's the intent behind this. But with that, I'll ask Mr. Smith, as the Planning Committee chair, to chime in and share some additional background.
Okay, thank you. We had a great planning commission meeting. Planning committee meeting as great as it can be with this format. But as a little bit of background, in our strategic planning session we went through several items that, as we look forward to the future, that we can work on and do to enhance the contribution that we, the RMA, give to transportation projects, movement of people projects in the region. And we've had some really, in our involvement with the Coalition for the Borderland Expressway, Northeast Parkway, the members of the RMA that participate in that, we've all become very familiar with the entities of both TxDOT, New Mexico DOT, and all the other stakeholders for transportation in the area. And associated with that, our association with New Mexico DOT participants in that, which have been very regular and very significant, have been very positive. And in sidebar discussions and those types of things, it's come up like, the RMA is regional, and we should be able to reach out and do regional type activities that cross even the international boundary, but also the state boundaries, and look at opportunities to join together and collaborate and do some good, because there's a lot of roadways and transportation networks that cross the state line, as well as the international boundary, but cross the state line, and they are projects that are on the books for both Texas and New Mexico to be done. So it's a great opportunity for the RMA to get in there and participate. Well, part of this is that's not in the vocabulary of New Mexico. They have never officially done anything with the RMA, and they do not have any procedures or anything to do that. But at the worker level, like the New Mexico dot level, especially with those that are participating from Donna Ana County, there is a desire to pursue that. And so the methodology that's required if we do want to pursue that is to plant the seed, send a request to the Secretary of Transportation for New Mexico, and put forth our proposal that we would like to work together. So the planning committee, with all that being said, the planning committee yielding to that recommendation as to the avenue to get into doing business with New Mexico would be to start with developing a relationship with the Secretary of Transportation for the state. So for that agenda item, that's my input. Any other planning committee members want to add anything to that?
So if there are
No,
no
I think
other,
Jim covered.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
Go ahead. No, I'm sorry, this is Joe Wording. No, I think Jim covered it well.
So if there are no other comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion, Les Parker.
Second, Luis Rosas.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Okay, moving on to item 5. Discussion and action on board resolution authorizing the executive director to execute an amendment to work authorization number 3 with Dannenbaum Engineering Company, El Paso LLC, for the State Loop 375 Main Lanes Widening Project.
Madam Chair, this is Jim. Can we go back to 4 for just a moment?
Sure.
I noticed Calvin Croker on the line. Calvin has been a huge player working as a consultant with TxDOT, working the interface with New Mexico, and a lot of things being done. If it would be okay with the chair, I would like Calvin just to give a comment as to the meaning and purpose of this agenda item from his perspective, which has been a big part of how well TxDOT and New Mexico DOT work together. Would that be okay?
That's fine.
Thank you, Chair Wilson. Hopefully you all can hear me okay. So yes, this is a 20-mile route that the two DOTs have been developing together. New Mexico has 3 projects, and they are largely funded. They connect with Interstate 10 at Anthony, New Mexico, Highway 404, and continue on through the Anthony Gap towards the Chaparral community. Then there's 2 other pieces there with New Mexico 213, which connect to the state line at MLK. And then at that point, with TxDOT has a 11-mile new alignment highway. It's a diagonal route across the El Paso Water Utilities land with interchanges at Patriot Freeway, Dyer 54, and with 375 Purple Heart. TxDOT has nearly prepared that project to being shelf ready. It's a good candidate in terms of a shelf ready project, and they need funding. So it's their status is very different from New Mexico's. And Colonel Smith, together with Mr. Parker, with Mr. Wardy, together with RMA staff, there's been an ad hoc coalition that has been formed now for 3 or 4 years that's really been advancing that cause and sees the strategic value of this project as a bypass to downtown El Paso and an enabling project so that Interstate 10 could be reconstructed through downtown El Paso. For that reason, TxDOT sees this as a regional priority capstone project. So I was just here to share history or to offer any responses to questions that you all may have. No real purpose to my comment other than to support Jim and be informative. Thank you.
I will mention as well, it was discussed during the planning committee meeting that we would ask Mr. Craker to come back to the full board next month and give a more in-depth status on the project, on the Northeast Parkway, or I should say Borderland Expressway project specifically, with the intention that, as you all know, we have quarterly reports that brief the board on each of the projects, and this is obviously one of them that the RMA is pursuing. So Mr. Craker hopefully will be back with us next month to actually go into a little more detail on the status of each of the components of the Borderland Expressway.
Okay.
Thank you, Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sorry I didn't pick up on that before we went on.
No, fine. That's helpful. It was helpful to have him speak. Okay, so I've already read item 5 into the record. Do I need to do it again?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. We're good.
Right.
I'll carry on with that item. So as read into the record, this deals with State Loop 375 Main Lanes Widening Project. As you all may recall, this one we've talked about quite a few times. This is another amendment to this work authorization. And just to give a very brief background, this project actually came from a different project that we originally began with TxDOT many years ago, referred to as the Americas Managed Lanes project. That Americas Managed Lanes project was split into multiple projects, including the original environmental for the Americas Managed Lanes, which then controls 2 distinct projects, the Loop 375 Main Lane Widening Project, which is what we're discussing today, and then also the Loop 375 Frontage Roads project as well. What you see before you as item number 5 and is included in the backup is an amendment to the design firm that is assisting on this particular project, and we are adding additional funds based on a request from TxDOT. And I would note also this project is being funded by TxDOT, so the request from the engineering firm, I should restate that. The request for additional services came from TxDOT, and the funds to pay for those additional services are also coming from TxDOT. TxDOT has reviewed and approved the fee and the scope included in this exhibit, in this item. So with that, subject to your questions, I would recommend approval of item number 5.
Motion to approve?
We have a motion.
Second.
Who's second?
Mike Norwich.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mike. I didn't recognize your voice on that. Okay, so we have a motion and second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Jim
Opposed?
Smith.
Abstain? Motion passes. Item 6, discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the executive director to enter into an agreement with Tri-State Electric Ltd. for the completion of certain OCS work as part of the El Paso streetcar project. Is this one being eliminated?
Yes, ma'am. We will be deleting this item. We'll bring it back probably next month. We've got a very brief informal procurement we have to do based on what we think these activities are going to cost.
Okay.
I'd ask that this
So,
item be
do we
deleted.
need a motion to delete it?
I'd request one, yes, if you don't mind.
Okay, can I have a motion to delete item 6?
This is Joe Wardy, so moved. Second, Les Barker.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Moving on to number 7, discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the chair to execute an amendment to the interlocal with El Paso County, providing vehicle registration fee funds for the roadway portion of the Fabens Airport Improvements Project.
This item is read into the record is the Fabens Airport project. This is an interesting one in that, if you recall, the Fabens Airport project is a project that we're developing for the county of El Paso. They are looking at doing 2 things under this particular project out at Fabens. One relates to creation of a decel lane on Fabens Road that feeds into the airport, and the second, and associated signage and striping and that sort of thing. The second project will be the design of hangars and the construction eventually of those hangars as well. Under item number 7 today, what you see is an amendment to the interlocal we have with the county, whereby they will be providing an additional $125,000 in vehicle registration fee funds. Really, ultimately, what they're doing here is the original agreement with them had $430,000 for engineering that was intended to go towards both the decel lane as well as the hangars. What they're doing is they're carving out the design costs on the decel lane portion of the project, and they're paying for that under the vehicle registration fee program. So that's what you see under item number 7. So subject to your questions, I would recommend approval of this item as well.
Any comments or questions?
Jim Smith, so move. Move to approve.
Second. Oh, go ahead.
We have motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. We're on to item number 8. Discussion and action on board resolutions to authorize the executive director to execute the following instruments as they relate to the East Lake Boulevard Phase 1 project. A, project contribution agreement with Medlock Commercial Contractors, LLC. And B, amendment to work authorization number 27.6 with Atkins North America, Inc. for a reduction of available fees.
All right, this item is doing two very distinct things. Under item 8A, we are entering into a project contribution agreement with Medlock, as read into the record. This relates, and you may recall, we've done something like this similar. With East Lake 1, if you've been out there lately, you know that there's a lot of development occurring in the area. There are a lot of activities going on. So what we're seeing is that we're seeing various developers and existing landowners wanting to add, whether it's decel lanes or other improvements to the project before we finish up, and we are nearing completion. What you see under item 8A is that there's a fire station on East Lake that is looking to add traffic signal improvements to our project before we complete. So the fire station has engaged Medlock Commercial Contractors to do certain work for them. So they've asked Medlock to partner with us, and Medlock, the fire station through Medlock, will be paying for those improvements. The improvements are minor. It's about $2,715 worth of activity. We've included a contingency of about 20% just in case, and that's what item 8A is. This fee came from a draft change order from the developer, has been reviewed and approved, and is supported by the County of El Paso. I should have mentioned under the last item and the several items that are to come, we do have, I believe we have a member of the county's staff here, should you have any technical questions or questions of the county as well. So that's what item 8A is. Item 8B then relates, it's a more bigger picture as it relates to the East Lake Boulevard project. On this one, as you know, we have an interlocal existing with the County of El Paso, whereby the county provides the total project funds to the RMA, and they encumber those vehicle registration fee dollars to us for the development of the project. We are nearing the end of the project, which means that we've used the majority of those funds that were encumbered. And we are, however, I would mention while we are close, we believe that in the end we're going to have a cleanup change order that will be a positive, that will add money back to the project. So we're not. So I'll mention that at the outset. What you're seeing under item 8B though is a reduction in the available fees to Atkins, and what this really amounts to is an encumbrance issue. As I mentioned, we're coming towards the end of the project. We've used the majority of the funds that are encumbered under the interlocal, so we're getting close to that end point. So what we're doing under 8B is freeing up an additional $200,000 to be used for the project. In the end, we think that we're going to end up with funds left over, but this is really just a movement to allow for that encumbrance issue. So I'm not sure if I explained that very well, but subject to your questions, I would recommend approval of both 8A and B.
Do we do it together, 8A and 8B together?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I have one question. You referred to the fire station owners in 8A. That's the county of El Paso, correct?
No, it's they have emergency services districts, I believe they're called ESDs out there. So it's not the county proper.
Okay. Is that private owner then?
No, it is a local government of some type. I'm not super familiar with the type of agency that it is, but it is a public agency, as I understand.
Okay.
It's kind of like the community college district where it's an independent taxing authority, I think, is it not?
I believe so, but
It
again,
can
I'm not-
leverage, it can assess, I think, fees to properties for its services.
But isn't it the owner that you're actually contracting with?
well, in this case, the owner has a contractor that's doing work for them, and they're using, and I'm not exactly sure why we asked the question, but I think it's a payment issue. So they've asked their contractor to provide the funds to the RMA, and that's why we're contracting with Medlock as opposed to the district itself.
I see, just directly with Medlock. I got it. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
No, ma'am.
So moved.
So we have a motion.
Yes, motion to approve.
All right,
I got Mr. Fernandez on that one as the motion.
okay. And who's the second?
I'll second.
Mr. Norwich.
Norwich? Mr. Norwich.
Okay, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor? Aye.
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 Who said no? Did we have a no? No, I guess not. So we all in, so any no's? Any abstentions? Okay, motion's passed. So we're moving on to item 9. Discussion and action on board resolutions related to the Darrington Roadway Improvement Project, which authorizes the chair to execute an amendment to the interlocal agreement, BRF project development agreement with El Paso County for additional funds, and B, executive director to execute an amendment to work authorization number 2 with Hewitt Zollers Inc. for the addition of certain engineering services.
Okay, this item has two actions that do effectively achieve the same act. Under item 9A, what we're doing is we're amending the interlocal with the County of El Paso to provide additional funds in the amount of $63,500. That provides additional funds for design activities. The design activities that are needed are actually requested by the County of El Paso. That is to add pavement, concrete pavement, as a potential bid item. So really what happened here was that the original plans were developed to be an asphalt roadway. And what they've done is they've asked that the designer put in as an ad alternate a pavement option. So that's what we're doing today. So item 9A adds the funds through the interlocal to the RMA. Item 9B then amends the work authorization with the design firm to actually do the work. So subject to your questions, I would recommend approval of this item. Both items together.
Any questions?
Move to
I'll
approve.
entertain- We have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Okay, so we're on item number 10. Discussion and action on board resolutions related to the Tierra Este project, which authorize A, the chair to execute an interlocal agreement with El Paso County for design funds. B, executive director to execute work authorization number 1 with Dannenbaum Engineering Company, El Paso LLC for design services. And C, executive director to execute work authorization number 38 with Atkins North America for design oversight.
Okay, this is a new item. So I thought what I would do is I'll share my screen so that you can see the project limits. This is a new project for us under the vehicle registration fee program. It's known as Tierra Este. Here are the maps that are included, the graphics that are included in the interlocal agreement. You'll see what we're doing is designing the Tierra Este roadway. You'll see that the proposed work consists of the design to extend and reconstruct Tierra Este from Cozy Cove Avenue on the north side all the way down to Pelicano. And you can see all of that before you. What we have then under item 10A is the interlocal with the County of El Paso, whereby they are providing the design funds in the total amount of just over $3.5 million. We've got under item 10B, a work authorization with Dannenbaum Engineering, who will do the design work for just over $3 million. And under item 10C, we have the Atkins work authorization number 38, whereby they will do the oversight of the design activities for just over $460,000. This item has been including all of the agreements, fees, and fee and scope documents have been reviewed and approved by the County of El Paso. And as I think I mentioned, this is a vehicle registration fee program under the 2013 El Paso County Comprehensive Mobility Plan. So subject to your questions, I would recommend approval of this item.
Any questions?
Yeah, this is Jim. I have a question. I thought we had tapped out the vehicle registration well.
No, sir. We still have some funds available.
Okay.
In fact, Mike,
Yeah,
I can.
I was under the impression that was getting pretty close to tapped out. What's the projected estimated total what's the estimated total for this whole project? Looks to me that's a pretty sizable project, isn't it?
It is. We will have as part of the design activities, they will develop an estimate for us. And in fact, part of what they'll do is put together the entire plan documentation, and we'll be ready to put this out for construction bids upon completion of the design plan. So I don't have a number for you just yet.
Okay. Is there a way that we can find out how much more water is in the well of the vehicle registration fees?
Sure, we know that, and in fact, I'll work with Robert to put something together, a kind of a brief one pager that outlines the expenditures and what's left. Yeah, we have all that for you. We'll send that to the board.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly.
Hi, Jim. This is Sal Alonso from El Paso County. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Hey, Sal. How you doing, Sal?
Good morning, everybody, Chair and members. Thank you. Yeah, just to add a little bit more on this roadway project, this is another crucial roadway connection that the county has identified alongside with the MPO and TxDOT that would benefit the area, alongside with the John Hayes, which is about 3 miles east of this north and south connection that's already under design. This connection is critical for the as you know, this area, the congestion that is occurring right now in Loop 375 in Zaragoza. So this acts as a alternative reliever for the area. As far as construction goes, this is very preliminary, but we're probably looking at maybe a $28 million project, give or take. Again, that's very preliminary at this point. But we are seeking construction funds through the MPO on this one. It is identified in the current 2045 Destino, and also has been identified in the most recent RMS MTP that the MPO had just presented to all the agencies. So this is anticipated to be let mid, I think about 2026 or 2025 around there. But again, we're trying to get ahead of the game and have projects shovel ready in lieu of if there's any funding that comes available. We would like to have a couple of these projects shovel ready. Taking just a page of what TxDOT usually does is have all these projects lined up, shovel ready. So when money comes available, then we've done our due diligence and have done the environmental PSNEs and all that. So we're just trying to follow suit and make sure we have, as the county is moving forward, have all these projects ready to go for construction.
Thanks, Sal. A follow-on question, Madam Chair. How far down the path can we go with this project from the RMA and still not take it out of the running for TxDOT funding? How far can we go? In other words, using the bonding with the vehicle registration fee. In other words, pursuing that along that path. What if TxDOT funding comes in, or how's that work?
Well, the way we've been doing all these projects, and I'll give you an example, Policano. We were able to use the vehicle registration for the design for that project. However, since we were going construction dollars from the feds, FHWA, we had to follow a certain criteria and follow all the federal guidelines. So how we did Pelicano is similar how we're doing this project. So we're using vehicle registration fees, which are local funds. However, we're following all the federal guidelines that are required because once you spend one cent of federal dollars, everything becomes federalized. So we're just making sure that the design that we're following follows the federal guidelines. So when the construction funds come available at the in the future, the project has gone through its schematic design, environmental review, public meetings, and so forth, and then getting TxDOT's oversight and approval along the way.
Okay,
Did I
thank
answer
you.
your question?
I'll follow up on that,
Okay.
Sal. That's a really good point. The design to which we are developing is a TxDOT standard. So that means this will be eligible for federal funds. So our intent, as Sal mentioned, is to actually pursue federal funds to be matched with the vehicle registration fee. And in fact, that's going to your original question. That's how we've been able to stretch these funds so far. We've had several projects within the Comprehensive Mobility Plan that have used local dollars for design and then sought federal dollars and which are matched by vehicle registration fees. So that's how we've been able to stretch it out as long as we've had. And I think the county's done a really good job at leveraging those vehicle registration fees out this long.
That's super. Thank you very much.
Sir.
So can I get a motion to approve?
Jim, so move.
Second.
Second.
I'm sorry, who was the second on that one? I'm sorry, I missed it.
I think it was Joe. Les.
Okay.
So we have a motion and second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Moving on to item 11, discussion and action on board resolutions related to the O.T. Smith Shared Use Path Project, which authorized the chair to execute an interlocal agreement with El Paso County for construction funds. B, executive director to execute an amendment to work authorization number 2 with CEA Engineering Group, Inc. for CE&I and testing services. And C, executive director to execute an amendment to work authorization number 31 with Atkins North America, Inc. for design services during construction.
So this actually plays well off of the conversation we just had. This project was designed using vehicle registration fee proceeds and is now being funded for construction using federal funds. The County of El Paso is actually managing the construction on this one. So what they've asked of us are additional construction management and oversight activities. So under, excuse me, under item 11A, you see the county interlocal agreement, which adds almost $335,000 for those construction oversight and management activities. Under item 11B, we have a work authorization with CEA Engineering, and those are the folks that are going to do the construction engineering and inspection and testing for this particular project for just over $214,000. And 11C then has Atkins coming in and doing the design services during construction. This one was designed by Atkins, and so they are continuing that role during construction for just over $110,000. So subject to your questions, I would recommend approval of these items under number 11.
Any questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion. Joe Wardy, so moved.
Do I have a second?
Les Parker, second.
All right, we have a motion and second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Moving on to item 12, presentation, update, and discussion on change orders recently approved by the Executive Director for the 2013 El Paso County Comprehensive Mobility Plan.
Okay, let me bring that item up. Just one moment, please. Sorry, technical struggles. Okay, sorry about that. So today we've got, as you know, we present approved change orders each month. Today we have 6 before you, and I'm identifying 3 that are pending. None that require board action. This is informational, for informational purposes only. First up, we've got Mission Ridge Boulevard Phase 2. Originally, you remember, we did change order number 1, which added that alternative route. Today you have change orders number 2 and number 3. Number 2 includes the installation of a transformer by the El Paso Electric Company for $4,672, and that was already approved, as was number 3, which covers off-duty sheriff's traffic control fees of just over $17,000. So that's what you have. We've got total change orders to date of 0.42% of the total project. Now, of course, the county general fund through the alternate route increased by 9.6%. The next batch is under the Vista del Sol project, and we've had several of them. As you know, this project is now complete. We do have our final cleanup change order. This does not require any action, but it is a change order to the positive of $97,000 of vehicle registration fee funds and $63,000 to the positive under El Paso Water. What this means in the negative in this is a little bit odd, right? Normally you see a positive number showing the additional cost to the project. What you're seeing here is that these were underruns in effect. So we did not spend a $97,000 of vehicle registration fees that we thought we would, nor did we spend an additional $63,800 of El Paso Water funds that we had originally anticipated. So this leaves us then with total project change orders under the vehicle registration fee program of 6.6% and under the water program of 2.2%. Next, we've got Pelicano Drive, and this one is just getting underway. This one is pending, but I wanted to let you know about it. It's a large one. It is a deductive change order, meaning that the contractor has come in with an idea that could save the project funds, and they are substituting a particular type of concrete pipe with a different pipe, and it's going to save the project $300,000. And that's what you see before you. Now, we're hoping to have this one ready to show that it was approved today, but it's not quite ready. But I figured we would leave it on there to let you know that that will be coming next month, but it is close. East Lake 1, this project is nearing completion as well, so you'll see a lot of these older change orders. I'll mention this PowerPoint, just like the other PowerPoints shown before, will be added to the website after the completion of the meeting. Today we have 3 change orders that were approved in the prior month, number 18, number 19, and number 21. 18 and 19 are sheriff's fees for traffic control for $16,900, as well as $17,000 under number 19. Number 21 then is a removal of a water pipe for just under $4,000. We have 2 that are pending that we thought we might have ready for today, but they are not quite ready. So you'll see those next month. Those are change orders number 20 and 22. Actually, I'm sorry, I misspoke. Number 22, you have seen, that was under one of the prior items when we spoke about Medlock. That's what you see under number 22. That is pending, or was pending, your approval. As you have approved it, I will sign that after we are done with this meeting. So you see our change orders under the vehicle registration fee program is at about 3.8%, with the other funds showing 1.6%. So that's all I have for you on this, and there is no action required under this item.
Are there any comments or questions? If not, I'll move on to item 13. Discussion and action on board resolutions. I'm sorry. Was there a question?
I think that might have been feedback, actually.
Okay. Item 13, discussion and action on board resolutions to authorize the executive director to execute the following instruments with the Texas Department of Transportation as they relate to the Border West Expressway project. A, third supplement to the memorandum of understanding, and B, amendment number 1 to the assignment and assumption of contracts.
All right, both of these items relate to one action as well. TxDOT, as you may recall, this is an interesting project in that we are partnered with the Texas Department of Transportation. TxDOT has certain roles within this project, and we have certain other roles. TxDOT was required to bring on a contractor to do the design and construction of the roadway. We did handle the design and installation of the toll components. Under their large contract for the design build of the project, the original procurement included what's called a comprehensive maintenance agreement. That maintenance agreement, and this was at the time TxDOT was including these, and they're referred to as COMAs, C-O-M-A, comprehensive maintenance agreements. A COMA was included in the majority of the large design builds that were being put out at that time, several years back. However, I think TxDOT is reconsidering the use of those COMAs. They ended up being fairly expensive endeavors. This one, I think, was by the time it was complete, was going to cost the project about $45 million. Since then, they've been reevaluating, and they have renegotiated that COMA down to what they're referring to as a performance warranty. So they're getting rid of the COMA, replacing it with a performance warranty. That warranty then looks like at the end of the activities completed, it will cost the project under $8 million. So it's quite a savings. Now, of course, as you can imagine, the COMA had a long laundry list of services that were to be provided by the contractor. Those services have been reduced and flipped into a performance warranty. However, I think it's good for the project. It still covers the major construction items for the project. So this is, in full, this is a good thing, definitely a good thing. So what you see as item number 13, then 13A has a supplement to the memorandum of understanding. As you'll recall, the arrangement between the TxDOT and the RMA was established through an MOU, which has been supplemented twice so far. This third supplement then allows TxDOT to amend their development agreement to convert from the COMA to the performance warranty, and then 13B tweaks the assignment and assumption of contracts agreement that we have with TxDOT to allow the same. So subject to your questions, I would recommend approval of items 13A and B as a positive to the project.
Any questions or comments? I'll call for a motion.
Les Parker, move.
Joe Fernandez, second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Motion passes. Okay, so now we are on to item 14. This is the last action item before public comment. Discussion and action on a board resolution related to the annually required security awareness training certification, which authorizes A, the chair to execute a governing board acknowledgement form, and B, the executive director to submit documentation evidencing compliance.
So this is a new requirement that came out of the last legislative session. A particular House Bill 3834 now requires all state agencies as well as local governmental bodies to complete certain cybersecurity training. So we've done that this year, both Robert and I, and we're in an interesting position because, as you know, Robert and I are technically employees of the city of El Paso that use IT equipment that is owned and operated by the city of El Paso. So under the city of El Paso's requirements from this statute, we were required to complete certain cybersecurity training that has been completed by both Robert and I. That completion of those activities then qualify us to submit a compliance report to the Texas Department of Information Resources, which is the entity that was tasked by the statute to confirm compliance. So what you see then specifically under items 14A and B, A is asking that the chair execute what's referred to as a governing board acknowledgement form. That was included in your backup. This statute is different in that it does not require many records to be kept, but what they have provided is this acknowledgement form showing that the governing board has confirmed compliance. And then under item B, it's asking for authorization for me to submit documentation evidencing compliance. What that really means is I'm going to go onto their website. I've been on it and I've looked around. There is a form that I fill out, I certify it, and click complete, and that's the extent of it. So that's what you see under the resolution and the attached form. So subject to your question, I would recommend approval of this item.
Any questions, comments?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion.
Jim Smith, second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Last item, item 15, public comment. Any comments? Anyone signed up?
We've not received any comments in the chat function. Mr. Craker mentioned that he'd be available, but I think he spoke already, so I'm not aware of any others. I would ask the public if they have any comments.
Okay. No executive session items?
No, ma'am.
All right, then. I'm going to thank everybody for your time. It was a fairly meaty agenda, but I think we handled it pretty well considering our limitations. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, but before that, can we, Raymond, can you find out whether or not there might be an opportunity for us to begin to meet in person starting next month?
Sure.
Is the city opening up?
That's exactly what I was going to say. I don't know of their plans just yet. So let me check in with them and see what they're looking to do, because obviously since we will use their facility, we'll rely on their resources. But I'll check in and I'll let you know as soon as I find out.
All right. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
This is
So
Les.
moved.
So
This
moved.
is Joe.
So I have
The
Joe
meeting
Wardy moved.
isn't June
Last
10th.
second. Sound good?
Yes, ma'am. I got.
It's
Mr.
10:03. Meeting is adjourned.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
great week.
See you.
Stay
Thanks.
safe.
Be safe.
Take care.